Thank you so much for the invitation and give us the opportunity to speak about the recent project we've been involved. So the title of our presentation is the Virtual Reality Remote Education and Training, a limitless platform to engage with students.
So we're all well aware that obviously virtual reality is a different medium, and the in-person training is really the best way you want to be. Groups of people meeting together, and it's the gold standard in training. And over the last few years, with the pandemic, we've seen that actually Zoom Teams meetings do work for large meetings and remote education, but it's not the same as in-person training. It's nowhere near where we want to be. We want to be able to reach through the screen and pass things to each other, and it just doesn't work that way. Virtual reality is a fantastic bridge between the two, because it has the ability of obviously a digital medium. We can meet anywhere in the world, but we can also, in the same way, engage with each other in the same environment. We can pass things to each other exactly the way as we can in person training. So virtual reality has been the missing link in some ways over the last 2 years of where we want to be for remote training and education. So how does it work? Well, using Oculus Quest headsets, we can actually sort of see each other. We can use the handsets for interaction. And by placing these on, we're able to sort of take people from the real world into a virtual world. So here we have a real office at the top on the right-hand side, where we have the wonky tables that are laid out in the normal way and the chairs at slightly odd angles. And if we take that content and create a digital twin, we can easily enhance the exact same learning environments. We can recreate this with digital models in that same space. And now we don't need to be in the same physical space. We can be anywhere we are in the world. So digital twin approaches to virtual reality are a great way to mirror real life. We reduce our carbon footprint. We can send headsets, not people. We can use digital models, which are accessible for all students. We have digital classrooms. One of the key things about virtual reality is the increased memory retention of tasks. It allows for a safe training environment, and it's accessible wherever you are in the world. So how does it look when you put the headsets on? Well, our aim was to initially create a digital twin of our laboratory, where we could wander around this and interact exactly the same as we could in real life. And how does it look? So on the left-hand side, we see a video of the real laboratory, and you can see as we look around, and then we place the headset on our heads, we are then seamlessly transported into the digital twin of the exact same space. And this is where we started about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, looking at how we could use virtual reality in education and to enhance this, and where we started this project to think about how could we change how we interact in our environments and enhance training for everybody globally.
So technology in education is a very important aspect. How can we use technology's helping hand to really increase the students' engagement and really improve accessibility and inclusion of students, and also improve student outcomes? In 2019, the Department of Education published a policy paper realizing the potential of technology in education. As many apprenticeship provided universities are now offset regulated, it's very important to be on the top of those things and go with the technology flow. At the University of Kent, at the Digital and Lifelong Learning Department, we are providing higher end degree apprenticeship. As you can appreciate from the slide, we are delivering online education to students. So normally students' training is consists of the training with University of Kent, which is online, and an employer where they can bring their skills and behaviors at a company. So basically, the first question we asked ourselves was, can we take part in increasing those skills and behavior of students remotely, providing them opportunity for that? And we thought the VR is indeed a very great platform to use. So over the past months, with collaboration with Dr. Hilton, we were able to, and also support from Medway Teaching Festival, we are able to purchase VR headsets and plan and design carefully the classes we can actually give this opportunity to students. Of course, the first pilot study was during face-to-face learning that takes part in the University of Kent, Canterbury campus at master level and level 5, and we can also sort of provide the first pilot study where we can test whether VR indeed would be useful for engaging students and how do students feel about this. So we have done 2 studies, one with MSc level, where it's a very small cohort of students, and also the large cohort of students at level 5. So just to summarize quickly, we have selected a topic that students are quite often exposed at their workplace as well as university, which is the HPLC. It's a very versatile analytical technique and it's used by biologists, chemists and pharmacists. It's very expensive. A piece of equipment costs £20,000, so quite often has a very low accessibility by undergraduate and postgraduate students. It's adjustable, so the level of complexity can be adjustable. What I mean by this, for example, on undergraduate students can be just introduced with the basics of chromatography with this. However, master students can have enhanced sort of HPLC practical where they can look at the using HPLC for PET imaging of radio traces. So you can see some pictures from this June summer school intensive week for master students, and you can see the students sort of sitting down can bring the VR headsets and be transformed to the laboratory and HPLC and interact with the HPLC equipment. So you can see that actually in the larger cohort of students from level 5, it was quite busy in the VR world and classes. So students were able to interact, they were able to sit down together and in the lecture theatre created for them and watch the lecture. They were able to sort of engage together, they were able to ask questions, watch as they would do in the normal world, in the normal classes, in normal sort of classical lecture theatre. So also in this image, you can see that students can engage in terms of laboratory practice and training. So they can type things, they can view things on the monitor, they can analyze the data together. They can also interact with the machine. So what does it really mean, interact with the machine? They can, as you can see in this video, they can open specific compartments of the HPLC machine. They can grab the HPLC column, as you can see now, and they can see sort of where the solvent trays are, how is the machine built. They can learn and they can study the machine and the basics of chromatography with the real training provided via VR. So you can see the students' feedback we have collected, and it's quite interesting. On the top comment, it said that VR is clearly a great engaging way to teach. So that was very satisfying for us to see that students really felt they're engaging with the machine, they are learning through fun activity, they interact and learn at the same time. So advantages of using VR in teaching is really to increase student flexibility to attend, because we can't engage with students unless we have them attending specific classes. So if it's remote learning, like for our case, we need to find the ways to really communicate and connect with students to increase their sort of flexibility, and VR is a great way to do that. We can increase students' confidence. So quite often we notice the students can be quite shy, as you mentioned before, in the talk, and actually as soon as they put the VR headsets, their confidence increase and their curiosity increase at the same time as well. So it's a great way to really engage students, but also like sort of enhance the curiosity so they can ask more questions. And in the VR, everyone looks the same. So that definitely increase the confidence of students, enhance learning, improve accessibility and inclusion, as we said before. It supports lectures. It can be used in various ways. You can have a VR-based training for the machines, but you can also have enhanced part of learning with sort of like looking at the 3D structures of proteins as a part of your lecture. So sort of activities we have been involved for the past year, and what we are currently doing and what we are planning to do is, so basically we have created a virtual suit lab and lecture room that University of Cambridge students have been exposed to. We carry out the pilot digital VR HPLC training for 2 different cohorts, and we obviously collected very valuable student feedback. We are now looking at creating virtual poster conference event where the student can engage, they can look at the posters, the techniques they are using in the labs, and they can ask themselves questions so they can connect from whenever they are and engage through that event. We are looking at creating VR laboratory basic safety training, and also to create the VR HPLC training for universities. We are currently working on VR-based practicals for neuroscience courses, where students will be able to, for example, look at the animal-associated practicals in VR, not using the real animals, but virtually created animals to enhance learning for neuroscience. And we hope that we can establish VR training platform and also take part in the VR engaging activities via outreach for students. They are A-level students and had a learning break and they would like to come back to university. So how can those students be engaged with a little bit of activities via VR? So really, just to sort of summarize the very interesting publication of conceptual diagram hypothesis relation, you can see that the core structure organization takes a big part in creating something, but this big part of that is the learner interaction and instructor presence to really engage the student and to improve students' learning and student satisfaction. However, we believe if we are lacking that learner interaction face-to-face and instructor presence, we're hoping that VR would be a great way to really subsidize for that and increase the student engagement. So just to sort of leave you with this picture of our student wearing the VR headset, learning about HPLC and really engaging with this activity and learning for fun is something that we really hope to achieve with using VR in higher education. Thank you so much to everyone involved in that project, for Learning and Teaching Festival Committee for providing us with a little grant, and the Global and Lifelong Learning Department staff, and Global and Lifelong Learning students that take part in that pilot study, and obviously you for listening.
Thank you both very much, and thank you, Stephen, for answering so many questions as you went along. That was quite the double act. Very, very good. There were lots of questions. I mean, lots of things about the practicalities. The one that I thought jumped out, because it seems like, I don't know, either behind where you are or in front of where you are, is what about augmented reality? Are there any thoughts about how you might use that?
Definitely, I think it's a balance of costs really. So the Quest headsets are relatively cheap, about £300 each. Augmented reality is about 2,000. So when you're looking at the balance of the headsets versus access to students, the numbers of the headsets you've got, it's a no-brainer. You start with the Quests. Specialist applications, yes, fantastic augmented reality, but that's a step change. I think small numbers of people, fantastic, but the reality is we teach large numbers globally. It's just not an easy option at the moment.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's very good. I didn't realise the price was quite so distinct. There's lots of questions around the practicalities of what training you need and so on, and a few concerns about digital poverty and what do you do about people who don't have access to this. I mean, clearly the university providing is one answer, but do you have any further thoughts in that area?
So obviously the cost is quite challenging in terms of VR headsets. However, and also some students are, visually impaired students that cannot really wear the VR headsets. So for those students, we provide, there is a version of PC version that they can sort of attend and look at the class, so they can reduce the cost. If you're not looking at everyone having a VR headsets, they can also attend such events via the PC version. So it's computer based, so it can be accessible via computer as well. But I mean, with sort of looking at the numbers, there's more and more people having actually VR headsets already from gaming industry and things like this. And the cost of VR headsets are decreasing as well. So we believe that it won't be a problem in future in terms of the cost.
I mean, it runs on an i5 PC and above, so it's easily accessible for anybody really. And the idea is you either send headsets to people and they send them back as students, or they come and collect them, whatever you want to do. Or they have their own devices. It doesn't really matter how we do it. It's as flexible as you want.
Great. Okay, there were a lot of other questions. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm going to have to cut us short there. If you have time in the chat to answer even more, Stephen and Blanka, that would be great. Certainly do have a read through if you have the time, because there's some really interesting stuff in there. And you've engaged an awful lot of thought from, I think, a lot of worry at the beginning and then a lot of excitement. So you've covered all the bases there, which is probably what we want to do, right? Get people worried, then get them excited. That's pretty good stuff. Thank you both very much.
Thank you so much.
Fantastic. Thank you.